Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds. Today we're giving a trip inside the mind of the nerds.
We're analyzing our deck building philosophy for Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, fresh out of quarantine, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, bringing you daily Commander content even if one of us is currently deceased.
Yes. So if you want to support that daily content and birthdays, happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is. Patreon.com. That's the best way to support the Nitpicking Nerds directly.
2 links. TCGPLAYER, affiliate. Go buy Magic cards from the best site to buy Magic cards. And when you start with our link in the description, we get a kickback on the order. Dragon Shield. Best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
Remember I said that? I wasn't there, but I said it. Go to the site, buy the custom sleeves you want or the regular sleeves you want. Best way to protect your Magic cards. But we get a kickback on the order when you start with the link.
How about a third link? Maraschiello. You can go follow us on that website. And if you're going to take our philosophies and apply them to your decks, guess what? I'm not even kidding. The best way to build a deck is to literally go to that website and just start doing it.
That one's not even an affiliate. That's literally just, we want you to go follow us and check out one of the best ways we know to build decks. They're not giving us anything.
I want Maraschiello to be successful because I love the website.
It's easier for me if Maraschiello is successful. Purely selfish.
It is, because if it's doing better, then the decks, then they'll make the site better, and it'll be even more easy to use, and it'll just make my life easier. Now, it's time for the real content. What you come to the Nitpicking Nerds for. We're talking about thought process, philosophy when we're deck building. We're not talking about numbers like how many of each card do you need, but rather, why do we put certain cards in the deck? Why do we think this way? And we're going to go over a bunch of points and give you you're going in our heads today.
If you're looking for numbers, like how many lands should I play? How many removal spells should I play? What's our sort of template loose guide? We actually already did that video. It's Deck Building 101. We're going to link it in the description, so go check it out if you want specifics. But this is, what do we think about when we build a deck? What goes through our little brain? What kind of neurons are firing?
Yes. So the first thing we got to start with, something that is super important when you're building any deck. What is the goal for deck building?
That's number one.
Why are you building this deck, period? You don't even need a commander yet. You don't need anything. Just why are you building this deck? And what power level are you looking for it to be? Because that is going to be super, super crucial.
Usually it's like, I really like this interaction. Sometimes it's just, I really like this commander, in which case you figure out what you're building and which commander you're building, your goal and your commander real quick, back to back. But it's like, what do you enjoy? What brings you glee when playing Magic? And that's usually what your goal is going to be, or you say, I love big swingy turns, so I'm going to build a Spellslinger deck. It's like, well, okay, well then get your plan, get your who, what, where, why, when, and get your basic roadmap of how the game's going to go figured out.
Yeah, for me, a lot of times a commander can be this.
Yeah.
It can be. You see the commander, you love that commander, you love what it represents or whatever, and you just want to play that commander. You like +1/+1 counters. All right, now we got to go find a commander. We saw, like you said, you see a 2-card synergy, and you're like, how can I make that super cool? You see a card like Slippery Bogbonder that is so cool and so unique and so good.
Derpy, too.
That you just want to find the right deck to play that card in. And that's exactly what I do. It's like, I find those things. My last deck I just built was Stuffy Doll Tribal. And I thought, this is one of my favorite cards ever printed. I love this card. Here we go. I'm building around it, and I'm aiming for a mid-power level because this is going to be jank anyway, so I might as well play it with other jank decks.
Yeah, the goal, you can kind of figure out your power level somewhere along the lines here. That's something to consider, but we're not going to say, hey, I want to build a 7. Like, that's not really how this goes. You don't like pick your exact spot on the board. You kind of start brewing and see where things end up and then figure out what your playgroup would enjoy the most. But like, that's a good example. You're like, I love Stuffy Doll. I want to do that. My goal, my game plan is get Stuffy Doll out every game and try to close with that. Have it actually matter to the strategy. I mean, it's one thing to play Stuffy Doll and then go Basalt Monolith Rings of Brighthearth. It's like, that doesn't actually, but did you really do the thing? No, you didn't do the thing.
Yeah, it's like earlier today I actually won with that deck because I had Torolf up. It's like, that's the game plan. The game plan is to deal 1 million damage to every creature. Torolf fits that game plan. I don't care if Stuffy Doll didn't win. It is Blasphemous Act, Torolf is a win. Okay, I'll take that. That's what the deck wants to do, and that's how it all came together. It's like, I know what this deck wants to do. It wants to deal 1 million damage to my creatures, to your creatures, and all over the field. And that's how I chose the deck, and I built around it.
Yeah, and if you chose any game plan that doesn't directly involve the commander, how you're actually going to go about winning the game, then you got to choose your commander. You got to say, well, I want to play an Aristocrats deck. Okay, well, let's look at some of the most popular, some of the best Aristocrats commanders. What spells are they going to let me play? Color identity probably factors in here a lot. Like, what colors do I want access to? Usually, the more colors you access, the better your deck is, and the more samey your deck is. So you're like gonna balance now how much fun, how much variance do I want, and how many colors do I want?
Yeah, when I'm choosing a commander, usually I start. A lot of decks start at the commander, where it's just like, okay, I looked in and I saw which commander I wanted, and I started building around that commander. And then there's the opposite side, like you were saying. You get to choose. You see a card or a synergy or a type of deck you want to play, and then you have to pick the colors for it. And once you pick the colors, you can start looking at commanders that do that type of thing. Like okay, I have I have some blue and some green cards that play counters, and I'm going to go for that. It's like, all right, now let's see what Simic commanders work with that theme, and you go find it.
Here's a good example. Stuffy Doll, you just talked about it 1 second ago. You want to play Stuffy Doll, but that's not your commander. It's not legendary. So you have to find out what shell works best around it. It's like, well, Stuffy Doll, I want to deal a bunch of damage and deal a bunch of stuff to creatures, and I definitely need red in my deck, and maybe I need some other colors. And you ended up on Piru, where it's like, hey, when it dies, it blows everything up for 7. That's perfect because it has lifelink and there's other connecting synergies. So like that's how you get from, hey, what's my goal? Stuffy Doll, to what colors am I going to play? And for me personally, basically as soon as I decide I want to build a commander deck, I'm almost auto-locked on 3 or less colors. I really can't. I have not found a single 5 or 4 color deck that I can come back to and continue enjoying. I don't know. There's something about it. I don't know if it's not the mana base. I have infinite lands. We're perfect. Our mana is going to be perfect. I think it's just the amount of staples and good stuff and like auto includes that you just feel bad for excluding, and then your deck loses its identity. There's so much stuff.
I've only had one 4-color commander, and it got taken apart for that exact reason that you
Yeah,
said.
it was unique, and you still took it apart.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of fell into like, there's just too many staples, there's too many this, and you can avoid that. And that's actually more philosophy we're going to get into. But choosing your commander, that's our thought on that. Next, this is a big one. Restrictions. With every single deck I ever build, starting like 4 months ago, I've started putting restrictions on myself in some way or another, whether it's building toward a specific card or it's just, doing this commander. It's like I'm not making it as CEDH as possible.
Look who finally caught on to the restriction plan.
So using restrictions allows you to make something super good and even push its limits into the direction of good, but something's holding you back and stopping you from making it some CEDH or insanely strong deck.
It creates a ceiling. Once you create a ceiling, you can push up against it all you want and feel satisfied to the maximum knowing you built the best deck you could. And the deck final product is something that's actually playable and enjoyable for a team, a pod of, power 6 or 7 decks. And it's super satisfying. Budget is the big one here. When we decided for Shuffle Scuffle we want to do some budget episodes, coming soon to a theater near you, those are some of the most fun decks I've ever built because it's like, I just get to make the best $50 deck I can, best $100 deck I can. Let's go. Let's do some numbers crunch, get out the abacus, and try to maximize the power where I can.
Yeah, exactly. Restriction breeds creativity, and that is especially true in the deck building process. If you decide you only want to play creatures, or you only want to play creatures and enchantments, that's already a huge restriction. You're down to 2 types. You can do anything like that. You don't want to play any permanents except lands. These are all just things that you can 100% do, and that's really cool. And because you're restricting yourself, your deck will be less powerful, but it'll be more unique and fun to play.
Yeah, and another thing is every time you make any restriction on your deck, like budget, I want to make tokens, card types, game plan, like number of ways to win, you're cutting out like at least 5 sort of snooze fest staples where like deck builders who keep coming back again and again to the drawing board will just flesh out the first 20 cards of their deck and just go, no, I'm just going to throw this away. I've done that so many times where I go like, ooh, what about this? And I put the first 25 cards in and I'm like, why did I even start this? I don't want to do this. But as soon as you start restricting and get rid of those staples and the boring, maybe samey stuff that you could play anywhere, this where things get so exciting.
Also, I have some news for you. If you are not actively a CDH player and you're building decks, period, you're using restrictions. Because if you're building for CDH, sure, you're not restricting. You're in no way restricting yourself. The whole point of CDH is to make a deck as good as you can without doing it. But as soon as you want to build a 9, anything lower than a CEDH deck has some restriction.
Time, fun, consideration to other players' time.
Yes, exactly.
I just said time twice.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So you're putting some restriction on yourself no matter who you are. So probably 99% of deck builders out there in the EDH world are already setting restrictions, setting them a little bit higher can just make it that much more fun.
Since at this point, when deck building, we're almost always starting with some kind of restriction. The thing I want to do now is bake in the maximum possible amount of synergy to just make this the most cohesive, interesting, unique deck I can. If I'm going to do, like we say, the Stuffy Doll thing, I don't know why that's apparently the episode. This is the episode for Stuffy Doll examples. If we're going to do Stuffy Doll, all of my cards are going to work with this whole theme of dealing damage. When I can choose my 5 or 7 spot removal spells, they're all going to deal damage. When I can choose my board wipes, they're all damage based, even though I'm in black and white. All this stuff ties together so that, yeah, when you aren't necessarily on your main game plan or you're in top deck mode or something, your cards are a little worse than average. When your deck's actually doing what you built it for, it is going to be just like rocket propelled into the #1 spot, and you're going to be kicking butt.
Yeah, exactly. I want max synergy. I am not building in something that building max synergy does is it fits into kind of restrictions. I'm not just throwing in all the best cards. Sure, I'm going to throw in some staples to help my deck along. I think there's a Smothering Tide and a Necropotence within my janky, silly Stuffy Doll deck to help me kind of push things along because it is super janky and tough to do anything with. But I'm pushing for synergy. The stupid deck has Lithoformage, and that card sucks.
So bad.
I don't even like that card at all. It's in the deck. I'm playing Shrine of Resonator. It's not even good in the deck, but I want to double my Stuffy Doll trigger. When it gets hit for 13 by my Blasphemous deck, I want to do it again.
So let's say in a deck of all staples, you kind of got the power level is like kind of stagnant, or like, no, it's pretty good like all the time, but you never hit this like astronomical point of like, I have 6 synergy permanents in play and they're going ham and you're super dead. It's like, oh, you know, I got all this stuff and I'm just continuously getting card advantage. And so it's kind of like we trade this flat line for super highs, and then we can dip below it a little bit when we play like, oh, you know, this card ended up being a little bit worse than Cultivate when I'm not doing my thing. But most of the time I am doing my thing, which is why we always say, get these stupid Cultivates and Grave Titans out of your deck for these synergy pieces that are going to pull you ahead and just perform better so much of the time.
Yeah, and something I've actually come to a lot more recently, and this isn't even on the script, but it's a little off script.
Bonus.
Yeah, bonus. I've started putting in less protection for my combos or huge synergies or things like that because tension makes the game so fun.
Ooh, it's true.
If I know that if they have that removal spell, it's going to cost me here, but I still get to go for it, and then they don't have it, it's like, that feels so much better than, yeah, I just had 3 counter spells back up.
You couldn't have had it.
You couldn't have had it. There was actually no way you could have stopped me. And it's like, there's no tension there. I literally, on one of the most recent episodes of Scuffle Shuffle, and I won't spoil anything, there was a play where if you just had a single removal spell, anybody at the table, it was done. My whole plan was out the window.
You're thinking of Shuffle Scuffle.
Shuffle Scuffle. Yeah, Shuffle Scuffle. But it was out the window, and it made the play, when it actually got there, feel so much better. It's like, is it worse to make yourself vulnerable? Yeah, it's a heck of a lot worse. But this is deck building, and playing is not all about doing the strongest thing. It's about having the most fun with the people you're playing with.
And this is our specific deck building philosophy, so we know exactly what we want, and we don't have to cater to anything because it's literally just what we think and what we enjoy. So a lot of this is personal, and it's more
That's a great point
for you to think about. Answer all of these questions for yourself. You're going to help yourself out a lot by doing it, but don't just say this is what we recommend, because I don't necessarily recommend how I build decks for you to build. Usually, what we do is we say here's what's going to make a solid, powerful, upper tier but not CEDH deck. Like we're going to bake in really strong win cons that aren't combat. There's going to be critical mass combos, all this stuff. We don't necessarily build that every time, but we want to recommend a powerful upper tier deck because obviously you can then take our list and pick what you like and what you don't like and change it around.
Yeah, it's like BZ's Clue deck is a poopy deck. Like it's a bad deck. And it's so cool and it's so fun. And it, like you said, you have the boop boop, where sometimes the deck is doing nothing because you're built around clues. There's a bunch of garbage in there. But sometimes like, whoa, we're going off, baby.
Plus Tezzeret Master of the Bridge deal you 20.
Exactly.
Or it's like, oh, you killed Eloise twice, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I want to advocate more on this channel for. We can always push for power. I'm not trying to say we're the best deck builders in the world.
Honestly, we're pretty dang good.
We're good deck builders. We understand how to make a deck good, strong. We're a commander. I think this channel has focused a little bit, not all the way, because it's way more objective when you talk about power than fun. But I seriously, like, this video is perfect for it. focus on fun a little bit more in your deck building because it's something that we don't bring up often. And honestly, we should bring it up more because I want people to understand it's not all about making that perfect deck. You can make perfect decks all day. You can be the best deck builder in the world, but your decks might not be fun.
Make perfect experiences.
Exactly.
Put that on a fortune cookie.
Exactly. Build for the experience, not for the win.
Depending on your power level. I mean, if you're
Obviously.
like, hey, we love the grind, we love the jam, we love to be interacting with each other, like then basically you could stick with the decks that we're building because they're super good.
Yes, I think that building for the fun is super important if you play with random people because the experience becomes more like we're trying to do this group. If you go in, we know on average the player who sits down in a random group isn't looking for the spiky game. That's not what you're doing. When you go to your LGS, you're not like, all right, I'm looking for, unless you're specifically at CDH night, then you're looking for it. But if you sit down, you're like, all right, I want to play a fun, cool game here. I've never met anyone who goes to the CDH, or a regular night of EDH, who wants to just sit down and just go, all right.
Who's keeping track of their win-loss record? How about that?
Exactly. Everyone's just playing for fun. And that's what makes EDH nights so fun.
But you're still playing to win, though. You sit down playing to win.
Of course.
But you want to have, like, having fun is a must, but when you sit down, you're going to play to win.
So you play to win 100%. And here's where, and this is a big difference. When you play to win, you go 100%. When you build the deck, you don't go 100% to win. You build the deck to be fun.
And now you're playing, you're still playing optimal.
No matter how optimal you made the deck, if it was like, let's say it's a 50% optimal deck. Now you're playing it 100% to win the game once you get to the table. God, we can talk about this forever.
Hopefully we covered everything there.
Commander is so awesome. I love Commander. It's so fun.
Yes, and now we're moving on to ways to win, which ties into everything we just said. Because if you're saying like I need efficient ways to win, I want to be able to break a board stall, I want to be able to get through like one dumb enchantment. So that's where we bake in all these critical mass combos. Where I think still, if your deck's doing enough of what it needs to do and you have payoffs, you kind of just deserve to win, whether it's through massive attacks or just hey, you didn't disrupt my board state. Shame on you, kind of like this game has to end sometime. Me personally, I basically don't care how a game ends or when a game ends. I'm really lenient on power level cards played against. Nothing really grinds my gears enough to say that I don't want to play against it. I know Cherry's is a little bit different. Our things are going to start splitting a little bit more as this goes on.
We do.
How we build.
Yeah, we definitely diverge a little. Even in the beginning, we diverge slightly. It's not like we're building.
My game plan is to sling a million spells and do cast a bunch of 1-drops. That's always my plan.
Yeah, so for winning, I do like critical mass combos. I don't really have too much of a problem with them, but at the same time, they can be frustrating like I said, like I've explained to you about your white deck in the past.
I feel like you see them as deflating. How about that?
They do feel very deflating, where it's just like, yeah, it's like if you beat me in combat and I have a chance to like fight it off, it feels a little different. But I do understand that, yeah, you executed your game plan. You had 30 pieces out. We should have been able to stop you at some point. I think usually, I thought about this actually. Usually the reason that something like a critical mass combo gets to me is we have you think the window is a little bigger than it is for us to interact. It's like once you get one piece out, it's like, okay, if we kill that piece, that'll slow you down a lot. But then it's 2 pieces. Now we have to kill both those pieces to slow you down.
Or at least one of them, depending on, if the combo is hinging on 5 cards, any one of them will take it out.
That's fair. But that's usually how I feel about it. But I like mostly combat or super synergy-based wins. It's like Helena is a power-based counters deck. So one of my win cons is to put a bunch of counters on one creature, hype it up, and then Chandra's Ignition.
But this is why I draw 0 lines and I don't care, because how couldn't you just call that a combo? It's like, hey, if you assemble, Hardened Scales plus Slippery Bogbinder in a late game, and then you Chandra's it, like that's an instant win. It's like, I don't know. I don't really like those lines are so blurred.
It is very
it's all mentality stuff.
Yeah, it is a lot of mentality, and it's and like you said, it is a tough line to draw. And we're definitely not telling anyone to draw the line.
No, we are. You should have been paying attention. We're telling you.
Yeah, we're not telling anyone to draw the line anywhere. How you like playing and what you like playing against is completely subjective. And even BC, but even though I don't like critical mass combos that much, BC plays them all the time, and I'm never mad at him. Well, if I get mad at them, it's because I'm getting overly emotional in the game, which I shouldn't be doing.
Game's got to end, bro.
I need to kind of sit back and be like, all right, I'm getting too emotional here.
Yeah, remember when we played 6 games? You're welcome. Otherwise, it would have been 2.
Hey, the 2 grindy long ones, those are fun too.
All right, and so let's go to staples/groaners. We already talked about this. We try to limit them a little bit, but I'm definitely not avoiding them all at all costs. I kind of give myself this nebulous little restriction of I'm not playing all of them. I'm stopping at some point. I might play some of the ones that I personally consider must includes. Like if I'm blue, as far as staples go, I'm probably just playing like Ristic and Mystic. That's what kind of never leaves my deck for me as like staple card draw. I don't go down to Rift. I don't play that card very often. Expropriate, certainly not there. I really only have 2 or 3 staples per color, so my average deck ends up with 6 or 7 maybe.
So I have a couple ways of thinking when it comes to these groaners and staples. So the groaners are just anything where if someone plays it, they groan. This is Rhystic Study, Smothering Tide, Necropotence. Everyone's seen the groaners. Expropriate. That kind of stuff. Every time you see them, you go, oh.
Thought we're playing that game.
The thing I try and do with these is, one, I use staples to power up weaker strategies. The decks that really need it, that are going to be weak, they get way more of it. It's like okay, I need I need the Smothering Tide for my stupid Stuffy Doll deck. Just let me use it. Let me draw extra cards with this Necropotence. I'm just drawing Stuffy Doll. I'm not drawing anything crazy here. And that makes a big difference. Whereas if you built an insanely strong deck and also threw in the staples, it's like, now you're powering up an already insane deck.
How about this heuristic? Maybe when you have staples in play, how quickly afterwards does your deck win? If I have Rhystic and Mystic in play and my deck's insane, I'm just going to bury you and you're dead in 1 or 2 turns. But if I'm playing the janky, I don't know, Clue deck, it's going to take a while. It's not like you're under that as much pressure. It's not as backbreaking, and the game can continue more normally than otherwise when I can afford to play more staples in my jank deck.
Yeah, and speaking of groaners, like Expropriate, the only deck I used to play Expropriate just as a good card at the top end of all of my decks. Because I loved it and I thought it was just a great card, and now it's more of a doesn't fit the theme. The only deck I play it in is my Jaleva play my opponent's stuff deck.
I still argue no.
I mean, it is.
Wait, we'll talk about it forever. That's just my stance on it.
It's just the whole deck is take my opponent's stuff. There's Blatant Thievery. There's that. It's just got all the cards that take my opponent's stuff, and that's the only one I play it in. Even though it is still a groaner.
You know what? Here's the hot take of the day. Expropriate cannot fit a theme.
It does.
That's basically
it. Does.
That's my hot take. Deal with it. It's not up for debate. That's my take.
Your hot take is incorrect.
Oh. Next, we talk about it every other 5 minutes, it seems. It's fast mana. You got to ask, I think this is an important question, do I want fast mana? And something we're coming around to when we ask the question, do we want fast mana, is the answer for us is either yes or no. It isn't, no, I don't want fast mana, but I'm still going to play fast mana.
Yeah, so I've decided, not that I've decided.
Lay it on him.
This is the truth. Soul Ring is fast mana, period. It just is. It is accessible. Everyone has it. That is also a fair statement to say. But to pretend like it is fair.
Or like just because everyone has it makes it not fast mana, or that it can't ruin games. It's the second best card in the format because it's $2.
We just had another game today that was completely run away with, and the winner was decided on turn 1 when they went Soul Ring into Talisman. It's like, and the game was over. The game
wasn't over. It was a back and forth exchange, and then you look back and you go, "Man, how did he still cross the finish line? Oh yeah, he had 20 mana."
Exactly, and that's what that card does every single time. So if I've made the decision now that I don't want fast mana, that doesn't mean I get Soul Ring still.
Right, because it's fast mana.
I go, do I want fast mana? No. Okay, Soul Ring's not making me a deck, and this is brand new for me. I'm not gonna act like I've been doing this for years.
It's like a week for him.
It's a brand new thing for me, and I really am gonna stick with this. If fast mana is not what this deck is intending to do, it's not that kind of deck, then I'm not going to have Soul Ring. In fact, I have it in my Stuffy Doll deck because I built that like 3 weeks ago. It's coming out. It's 100% coming out for some cool synergy piece that's going to work better with the deck.
Here's where I'm at. I usually only play fast mana that isn't Soul Ring when I'm trying to power out something more specific or janky, and I really don't have an issue with fast mana all that much. It depends. As long as you're willing to put in some extra removal, I'm okay with like a more faster paced games, but it can be ruined easily by some of these cards. Mana Crypt is the one for me. I kind of like purchased all my Mana Crypts, and I'm not going to not play Mana Crypt, but I'm going to try to keep them to decks that also have Soul Ring, and I'm going to try to get on your train of either fast mana or no fast mana. I'm going to try to either go ham sandwich, I'm fine with everything, or nothing. I probably will match you at some point when I get around to it and take Soul Ring out of the decks that have nothing else like it in the decks.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at our friend group to do the same. They'll agree.
Well, I mean, we literally... Actually, I mean, today, one of our friends, Timur. Hi, Timur. We know you're watching. Hi, Heather. Hi, Draper. Draper's way cool.
That's his family.
That's his dog and his awesome wife, who is also awesome. But he literally today said, can we just get a group-wide ban on Soul Ring? It's like, gladly. I would love a group-wide ban on Soul Ring. I'll gladly take it out of all my decks right now. It's like, see ya. And obviously, we're not talking about like every single deck. It's like, if you ever see, BC has a CDH card deck, it's staying in there. It's not coming up.
High-power stuff. If I'm not taking out Mana Crypt, I'm not taking out Soul Ring either. Like some of those decks, like that's fine. We'll have the higher power. Next, we got to talk about combos, and it's kind of a binary thing. You go, do I want critical mass? Yes or no? Can't really have it in between. Do I want regular combos? We're talking like 1 or 2, 3 cards, shut the door, game's over, doesn't matter what I'm playing, really. They kind of fit in any strategy. I never play those. I basically never play those unless I'm specifically building a competitive deck that I want to juice up. Usually I'm playing critical mass. That's as far as I go. 4, 5, 3 sometimes, cards that work with the strategy and close out the game when we're behind as a plan B or as a plan A if I'm feeling frisky.
Yeah, I think if things work with the strategy and it's a critical mass combo that just happens to be in the deck, it's completely fine. And that tends to feel like where you want to be. I don't want to force the combos in. I just don't want to throw Mike and Trike in every single deck. I don't want to throw these other, and there's a ability of Kiki Jiki Pestamite. It's like, I can just take 2 cards out of any of my blue-red decks and throw Kiki Jiki Pestamite, and I'll win more games because it just wins.
Even if it's not even that good. Like, it could be a bad decision to do that, and you'll still win more games.
Exactly, because combos are the best way to win in Commander. I don't really play almost any combos, and the only reason I don't play critical mass is because I'm a jankier builder than BZ. BZ builds very efficiently, and not that it's not better or worse to build efficiently.
I'm all shucksing you. I'm like, oh
yeah, but he builds more efficiently, so it's easier for him to put together these critical mass combos. I build a little more janky, and my stuff tends to cost more mana and be a little more splashy. So it's
also everything I do is an engine. So eventually, I'm gonna find the formula for perpetual energy and just shut you guys down. But you're not trying to build an engine, so it's never going to happen.
I'm not trying to build an engine. I'm trying to
You got a hammer, and you're not building nothing.
Exactly. I'm trying to play a big, giant, stupid thing, and next to it, another big, giant, stupid thing that if they both work together, maybe they'll kill you.
Right. You're like 10 plus 10 is 50, and I'm just like 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is affinity.
My deck is gone, and I win.
Right, exactly. So, combos. Figure it out, because...
Where do you want to be?
If you miss or... the group has an expectation and it's not met, that could really ruin an evening. If you're like, hey, what the heck? We literally just said no combos. And here you are not knowing how your deck works going, uh-oh, guys, game over.
So I think the 2 things to consider with combos is, 1, make a deck that you would want to play against when it comes to combos. If you hate seeing combos across from the table, I would strongly suggest not playing them in your deck as, 1, it sets a good precedent, and 2, why would you make a deck you don't want to play against?
It's the golden rule.
It's just a perfect thought. And what is your play group like? Does your play group like combos? Is there combos everywhere? Do you want to play combos? Think about your play group. Think about what you want to see.
Absolutely. And the next one, it's ramp removal and card draw. And like I said, we're not giving specific numbers. This is more like, hey, these exist. Do not forget them, or your deck will not work at all. If you don't play removal, you can't disrupt critical mass combos. You can't even stop the eventual Craterhoof, which is such a mundane thing and something you should expect and be ready for. If you can't be ready for things by putting removal in your deck, that's your own fault. You don't get mad at other people.
So for all 3 of these, there's probably fast mana is an exception for ramp, removals like Cyclonic Rift's your exception, and for card draw, your Necropotence and your Rhystic Studies are the exceptions. Outside of those exceptions, I'm fine with anything.
Always, you mean? I mean, obviously, sometimes you're fine with the exceptions, but always there's this bedrock that's pretty high.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost all ramp other than fast mana is fine. Play whatever ramp you want. I don't care if you play the same ramp in every single one of your decks. I play the same ramp in every single one of my decks because it's the most efficient ramp, and that's not the defining part of my deck. This is just the thing that's getting me to do it. Removal. I'll play Toxic Deluge in 20 of 20 black decks because it's not taking away from the game at all. In fact, it's making games last longer. It's making them more fun. Having the best Swords of Plowshares, having the best interaction in removal is perfect, and it makes games better. And for card draw, if you have the best card draw, everybody gets to play the game more. These 3 things are so foundational to this format that I don't care what you play here. I really, really don't. Some cards in other categories and other spots where it's oh, cool, just one of the best cards in the format is
or combos. Do we need that category at all? Some people don't. But this is 3 categories. Every deck, you're going to need it.
Yep.
This helps you function and actually have fun and make sure that the game has, your deck has speed and keep up, can answer a threat and have there be tension in a game, and for you to actually see cards and not end up staring at 2 cards in a top deck mode.
Yeah, it's very, exactly. Even though, a super staple like Swords to Plowshares, it's the second most played card in the entire format. But that's not problematic because it makes games better. It almost never. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Swords to Plowshare has never made a game worse. It only makes games better.
You also want to consider your curve. What does your mana cost numbers look like when you lay it out? How many 1-drops do you have? How many 2-drops? Your curve should probably look something like a bell. Mine peaks at around 4 mana. I don't play that many 5, 6, 7 drops personally. Like I said, everything is cheap and cantrips and is a stupid Rube Goldberg machine. So my curve, way lower than the average Cherry's curve, but keep track of your curve and make sure it's functional. No matter what you're doing, you don't want your curve to look like this. That is not a good idea.
Yeah, you don't want to have way too much on the top end of it. Curve is just something to consider and look at. You don't have to have a super low curve, but understand the higher your curve is, where if it's peaking up at 6 and 7, your deck's not going to get to do its thing as much because you cast less spells. I build with high curves, and when you build with high curves, another thing is be aware of your mana. If you don't build a super high curve and then have 33 lands in your deck, it's like you're going to be in a lot of trouble. It's like if you build the super high curve, go, okay, this is a 40 land deck. I understand I need to hit my ledge up every turn.
And maybe bake in some more ramp, too.
Exactly.
You're going to need to get there. If your deck, like I said, we said this is a bad idea where you top out at 1,000,000 13-drops. But also the other way, if you only have 1,000,000 1-drops and then you have like 3 closers in your entire deck, maybe, you might not have games where you impact at all. You have to find the mixture of cards that, come out early, they give you some velocity, they grease the wheels a little bit, get the strategy rolling, interact, and then you also need the closers and the big boys and the beefcakes. And if you don't have a good mix and your curve is all helter-skelter, you're going to get messed up. You're going to enter games you don't even have a chance of winning just based on how your deck was.
Yes. Another thing, tutors.
Tutors.
So here's where I'm at with tutors. I am off generic tutors that get anything.
Like card.
I'm off the Grim tutors. I'm off the Demonic tutors. I would even be off the 4-mana ones that do it. I think they're bad, but
that's why I'm off them.
But I'm not going to play it. I'm going to play tutors that have restrictions. I think they're really fun. The only exception to the anything tutor is gamble, and that's because I think that card is fun.
It's kind of hilarious.
And I think it literally is a gamble, and I think that adds an extra layer of fun to the game. I love that card. I think it's a great design. But other than that, I'm playing Stoneforge. I'm going to go get an equipment.
Recruiter of the Guard. That card's fantastic, and that's
Recruiter of the Guard. I have my Stuffy Doll deck. The main 2 cards you want to get Stuffy Doll, or you want to get Brass Hunter. They both cost 5 mana. I'm playing the Transmute crappy card.
Brain Spoil? Is that
Brain
what
Spoil. It's a terrible, terrible card that destroys a creature. But for 1 black, I can transmute it to go get one of my 2 key pieces. And I will play tutors like that are restrictive. And BZ, you were getting on me because my Recruiter the guy was taking forever to do is because it's a restrictive tutor, and I purposely
my
deck
4 targets.
There's like 10 targets in the whole deck, but one of the targets is in their tutor.
Perfect.
I actually did that today. I used it to go get Stoneforge to go get an equipment, so I tutored the tutor.
Perfect.
It was great.
Classic. You gotta love it. So figure out your tutor situation. Sometimes no is right for you. Sometimes for us in the middle, only ones that say certain
restrictive
type that fit right into your deck's game plan, like, oh, well, I want clues, so let me go find Tamio's journal. Like, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then we're not really playing the demonic tutors, but obviously you can.
Yeah, I mean, demonic tutor and vampiric tutor, if you're playing a black deck, they should 110% be in the deck if you have them.
For power.
For power. I don't like the sameness. I want the games to feel a little bit different, and I want to be restricted. So that it's a restriction. One of my restrictions that I put on myself is I do not play generic tutors like the Demonic tutor and Vamp tutor.
Let's bring it home, Cherries. How do we change decks after testing with them, after playing with them? We get in 10 games and then we go, not sure about blank.
Yeah, exactly. So today I played my Stuffy Doll deck a ton. I'm testing it because it's going to be on Shuffle Scuffle.
Future episode
in
10 months.
It's going to be a future episode coming up, and I'm super excited to get this deck going and make sure it's working well. And I won 0 games, but that's not the reason I'm changing cards in the deck. I don't base it on my win-loss ratio. I literally had the most fun with the deck I could have. I think it was a perfect power level for what I'm aiming for in Commander. Won 0 games, didn't care at all.
You had functionality issues.
I had a couple of functionality issues where cards just didn't work with the deck. I put in Pestilence and Pyrochemia, which seemingly work well in the deck. You hit your Stuffy Doll.
Indestructible.
They're indestructible. You're going to keep these around forever.
They were trash.
We don't make that much mana. This deck is using its mana efficiently a lot. It has a lot of high drops, so it's gonna use its drop. And if it double and triple spells, which it can, it's using all of its mana.
It just has better ways to deal damage. Also,
exactly.
You don't want to deal 1 every time.
Exactly. So using one to deal 1 just is not worth it at all in the deck. Though it looks like a cool synergy, they turn out awful. And it's just looking, and literally on paper, that looks perfect. It's like Stuffy Doll deck, Pestilence. That's perfect. That's a perfect synergy. But it didn't work. And now that I've tested and seen it, I'm taking out. And it's not for power. It's just because it didn't work. It
Yeah.
literally wasn't functional in my deck.
The things I test are my 3-landers getting there? Am I constantly hitting my land drops? Am I always wanting more interaction, more lands? Am I losing more games? A lot of losing games just comes from, hey, maybe you don't have enough removal in your deck. Maybe you need 4 more removal spells, and you're just going to keep getting murked by whatever the first thing that comes out is because your deck doesn't have enough answers. But if you had 1 more in your hand, the game goes for another 20 minutes.
Yeah, my deck needs 1 or 2 more answers also. That was something I noticed today too. I artifact and enchantment removal. So I'm thinking like dismantling way from my deck because I was thinking literally, I'm like, man, I really need a way to like wipe artifacts and kill them. Like, oh, well, that is both.
One thing that happened was you answered as soon as you answered something, it was a big threat. I just destroyed everybody next turn.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, my turn. Got anything else? No, you don't.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but like I said, I don't need my deck. You can, if you want your deck to win more, obviously you can change the deck to win more. That's not what I'm testing for when I'm playing. I'm testing functionality, playing the game,
doing the thing too, like
executing my game plan.
If you could never get Stuffy Doll in play, maybe you add now Brain Spoil. It's like, well, I want it in play. That's the whole point of the deck. If I can't ever draw it, and I don't have enough tutors, how am I supposed to do this thing?
My deck didn't struggle with that at all.
You had that.
I absolutely loved what the deck was. My secret commander is Stuffy Doll Brash Hunter. I got him like every game. We have enough specific tutors that I can always go get them and find them. And it was super fun. And the deck's going to even have, like, I originally didn't put a combo in because I thought, man, 2-card combo, it might just be too good. But I'm just like, no, this is janky dumb.
He saw my Archangel deck and he realized, oh, dang, the only way to beat this is with combos.
It's literally, it's 5 mana and then 2 mana equipment, 2 mana equip. Now I spent 9 mana. Now I have to deal damage somehow after that. And then, only then, do I win. It's like, sure, it is a 2-card combo. But oh boy, is it easy to interact with.
2 cards plus a lot of elbow grease.
It's so much work to get it done. But I think, is there anything else you do in deck building that you want to bring up? What is any other thought processes?
If we were taking things from our brain and putting them out here into the open, my brain is empty.
Okay, yeah. So I wish I had more to tell you because I think deck building is
so much fun. It's so deep.
It's so deep. It's so important. And I think it's almost more important. The deck you build and how you build it might be one of the most important things to the experience of Commander overall. And that's kind of crazy to think about that. That is like sitting down and playing. You're always going to enjoy hanging out with your friends. If it's you and 4 friends, you guys could go sit down and just chat.
You could watch a movie y'all hate and you'd still enjoy it.
I mean, you could sit with nothing on. Yeah. You're going to enjoy the day because it's you and 3 friends. Now you're adding in Commander. If all the decks, it's only going to add more fun if the decks are built right. But if everyone built miserable decks that no one wants to play against, then you're just going to end up in this weird spot. It's like, do you really want to? Why would we want to make our time worse? We could sit here and do nothing and it'd be more fun.
Speaking of time, since we are considerate of other people's time, why don't you end the video? Because we ran out of things to talk about like 7 Joe Cherry's paragraphs ago.
It's a long, I want people to know how important deck building is.
We got it.
And philosophy.
Making things concise is respectful and it helps make you more appear like you know what you're talking about.
We do know what we're talking about. Guys, I love you guys.
The video's over.
The video is
thanks
over.
to the patrons. Here they are.
Special shout outs to all of our patrons. Love you all as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. Seriously, you guys make this possible. You let us sit here and you do these stupid rants
that have to end at some point.
Magic the Gathering, the Commander format, is not only my favorite way to play Magic in a format.
It shaped my life.
It's my favorite hobby. It's my favorite thing to do. And it's not only just that, it's literally something that I only want to get better and I care about immensely. Like I can't even over doing this channel, I've just gained so much love for Commander.
Oh, yeah.
Like I loved Commander going in. Mm-hmm. And now I want Commander to just get better and I want to do anything to help Commander get better.
Yeah, and if you wanted to join the Patreon, there's a link in the description. There's a TCGPLAYER affiliate link in the description. Buy the cards you were going to buy while supporting the channel at the same time. Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse, good sleeves. Go to the link, buy the custom sleeves as a gift, buy the regular sleeves that you want. That's another way to support the channel. And you can go follow us on Moxfield to view all the decks that we keep talking about and never stop talking about.
BZ is being a big jerk. He's rushing me.
Realistic.
No, you don't got to be realistic. The people want to hear what we have to say. That's why they're here.
We tell them everything we wanted to say.
No,
now it's all tangents.
I was saying more. I always have more to say.
About our lives. What do we got?
Yeah, we do have to do a tidbit about our lives.
I've been in quarantine for the past 5 days. It was interesting. I filled an entire garbage bag with tissues, and
I thought I was gonna say poop.
The skin on my nose was peeling off. Super great. I was so sick I basically didn't have a problem with laying in bed for 60 hours. That was not the best, but Amber kept me company, and I kept her at arm's reach so as not to expose her to anything. And I watched 27 episodes of Whose Line Is It Anyway during that last day and a half there.
Yeah, so it's weird because when BZ's downstairs, I'm usually on my computer because that's where we
The
go.
office.
It's like an office pretty much, but it's where we go and what we do. But like yesterday, and it was yesterday and the day before.
This week.
But once we got the shorts done for the weekend, our weekends, we basically hang out or do whatever because it's the weekend. But BZ's up in his room because he's quarantined because I'm not trying to catch COVID. And it was so weird. I'm just like, what do I do? I sat there and played Pokemon Legends Arceus. And it's super fun. But obviously, I have 3 complaints. I'm just going to put them out there.
They're going to be really quick complaints, I promise.
3 complaints. 1, if you're far away from a Pokemon, they go at 2 frames per second, and it looks ridiculous. It's like literally like.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is riding the stupid deer. It's intended to help you get up hills, but it's super janky. So you end up just running at the hill and jumping over and over again until he finally makes a jump and gets to the spot.
And number 3.
Number 3, the scenery just doesn't look great. I mean, I don't know why the scenery look like Pokemon and the character models all look amazing, but the scenery just kind of looks like butts in a lot of spots. But I guess that is our video. Love y'all, guys. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.